I want to talk about this panic that's going through this party, this Republican MAGA party, and why their panic is now shifting into more violence, savagery that we saw them attacking more children surrounding in our cities with, is because they're losing this battle over this government shutdown.
The Democrats shut down the government out of fear. They have never been more afraid at any point than they are right now. They know, as we all do, what their own polls show. The leadership of the Democratic Party is the most unpopular with members of their own Democratic base. And we saw that in the elections last night. The old guard is desperately trying to use this shutdown to show the radical Marxist wing of their party that they can look tough to President Trump.
Everything he said is what's in his heart. Mike Johnson is afraid. Mike Johnson's never been more afraid than he is right now. The leadership of his party has never been more unpopular. All those things are true about this MAGA Republican Party. And he wants to go shift it to talking about the old guard of the Democratic Party is afraid of these new socialists, Marxists, or I don't know, who knows, whatever else he can throw at him are coming in. That's the one thing where he's right. This old guard that he loves to bully and push around and say, be afraid, Hakeem, be afraid, Chuck. And then they are afraid, and he continues to do whatever the hell that he wants. They're afraid of a new wave of people who are no longer afraid of them, see through their lies and see that he's actually scared of everything that's happening. Hey, this is another guy, Senator Roger Marshall. Leland Vittert dug into his ass about how they're losing this debate over this government shutdown.
How much longer, though, are the American people going to suffer? And we've talked about this for the past couple of weeks on the show, right? We've already have food stamps running out, if not now, certainly by Thanksgiving. You're going to have 10% fewer flights. By Thanksgiving, there is going to be news anchors doing a show in the morning from an airport and in the afternoon from a food pantry. And It's Republicans who control the House, the Senate, and the White House. It was President Trump who, he just said it, we don't have to play the soundbite again, but he said, if you read the pollsters, the shutdown was a big factor, negative for Republicans. How long can you afford this PR crisis?
No, Leland, you're a better journalist than this. You know it takes 60 votes in the Senate to fund the government, okay? So despite us controlling the House and the White House and the Senate, it takes 60 votes to do that.
You're right. I am a better journalist, and I guess implying that I was saying that you don't need 7 Democratic votes. You do. I'm also a good enough journalist to know how things are playing politically, and don't ask me, ask the President of the United States. I think if you read the pollsters, the shutdown was a big factor, negative for Republicans. So do you also disagree with the president that the shutdown's bad for Republicans?
It's not good for anybody, that's for sure. It's kind of like who's the worst of the bunch. But I really think you're conflating a lot of different things here, Leland. To me, I think we need to go back to why this is important. That Republicans want to work towards a balanced budget. Yes, we want to get the government open, but we're not going to do it at the expense of compromising more of a budget.
No one believes Senator Roger Marshall about there being some kind of budgetary thoughts that this Republican Party has as they continue to destroy things. As Donald Trump keeps inflating the cost of his his ballroom building that he keeps doing, that he wants to put up these monuments of himself in Washington, D.C. What about a budget are these guys even talking about? They know they're losing their argument. That's why it always goes to another attack about the person who's questioning him. Leland Vittert had to run up on his ass twice and tell him, yeah, I'm good enough to realize that you guys are losing this battle. They have no answers. Why isn't the answer talking about why it's not their fault when everyone knows it's their fault? As everyone's suffering and as they keep celebrating the destruction of people's lives, why it is that it's suddenly not their fault. If you're losing the argument, bro, just admit you're losing the argument and try and find a way around it. The problem is they're not looking to try and find a way around it. Hey, here's Mike Johnson getting cornered too.
So, you talk about the split screen between what the Democrats are doing and what the Republicans are doing. What about the split screen about the fact that the Trump administration is administering only part of the SNAP program while President Trump is having a gathering party at Mar-a-Lago?
I reject the premise of the question. Let me talk about SNAP. Okay. By the way, the president had an annual Halloween theme party every year at Mar-a-Lago. That's what he went back to as obligatory tradition. And I just discount what you're trying to do there. The SNAP benefit is a very important question. The White House has bent over backwards, as we've recounted here every morning, to make sure that Americans' pain is mitigated as much as possible, reduced as much as possible. So we got the troops paid. They made creative solutions for that. The WIC funding for women, infants, and children. And SNAP came to a legal crossroads because the legal analysis said that you could not use the contingency fund if the underlying fund was not flowing. I've explained that into detail here multiple times. Two courts disagreed. So what did the president do? In good faith, showing again that he's willing to bend over backwards to help the American people when Democrats are not, he went to the court and said, fine, show me how to do it because we don't see the path.
He just lets them flow out. Donald Trump, in bending over backwards for the American people, went to the courts who ordered him to release those SNAP benefits to their recipients. He bent over backwards to challenge it and then appeal the decision. That's bending over backwards to help the American people that are in need. His bending over backwards is challenging the answer to what also Mike Johnson said was the question of how do we administer all these funds? I don't know. Donald Trump said, I'm looking for an answer. And when the answer was given, he rejected that answer. Hey, so we're talking government shutdown. It's going to be the second time I run a video from this show, but at least it's not involving Scott Jennings this time. It's involving Adam Mockler, and this is a very good and clear example as to why I always preach: don't participate in debates with people who've told you their only reason to debate you is to yell and try and have some kind of a football game type of atmosphere. Because when you're proven wrong and when you're cornered, listen to the rejection of the premise of the question that gets answered here. I mean, that doesn't get answered.
Can I just ask, to either of the Republicans on this panel, would you rather see this government shutdown end in Trump's preferred way, which is terminating the filibuster, or Democrats' preferred way, which is extending health care? What do you say?
First of all, I'm not a Republican.
Sorry. Then what do you say?
Then
what do you say? I want to see what do you say?
I ran for city council as a Democrat in the city of New York. Lost by 100
Then
votes.
Then I want to ask you, what do you say about that?
I'm a New Yorker.
Okay, answer my question. Answer my question then.
These labels. You know why we are where we are?
Answer my
What
question.
you just did. I'm going to answer your question. But this is why we are where we are. Because we've become so partisan. We've forgotten about the people who don't put gas in their car. We've forgotten about the people who can't feed their kids. We're more worried about here's why the Democrats are not motivated to settle this. Because history will say, under Donald Trump, it was the longest government shutdown. So it'll be it'll be now.
We're getting there. We're getting there.
So for the Democrats, it's going to be down on his scorecard. I wish Congress would go to their home districts and see the people suffering.
You want to know who
and then come back to Washington and then make their decisions.
Somebody is, and it's Marjorie Taylor Greene, and she's taking the sides of the Democrats actively. She has talked to her constituents, and she said their health care premiums are about to skyrocket. So, again, one party clearly has the moral high ground. Let me ask the same question.
Pause for a second. The guy didn't answer the question, even though he said, I'm going to answer your question. I'm no Republican, but let me talk all these Republican talking points. Didn't answer the question yet. And he even, I guess to a degree, Mockler got distracted and shifted the question to this woman who she went Mike Johnson on him.
How should the shutdown end? The way that Trump wants it to end?
It should end that it always, there's one way it typically has always ended.
Negotiation.
Under Biden.
Thank you, that's what I'm saying.
Biden,
Negotiation.
It always ends with a clean
With
CR.
negotiation.
No. I reject your premise of You're too false.
Donald Trump wants to terminate the filibuster. Democrats want to extend health care credits. Which of these sides would you choose?
I reject that premise.
Okay,
I think the way that
if you don't have an answer, just reject the premise of the question.
I reject the premise of the question. Let me talk about SNAP. Okay.
Reject reality. I mean, that's what the makeup of this party is anyway. If you don't have an answer, if you don't know what you're talking about, if you have a really bad answer that's going to make you look worse and expose the thinness of your argument, just reject the premise of the question. Mike Johnson does it. Just take notes from that liar.
And I just discount what you're trying to do there.
You can't reject the premise of a question if the question is asked. Donald Trump has posted incessantly about ending the filibuster as a way to end this government shutdown. Democrats have collectively and repeatedly talked about these ACA requirements and these explosion of people's healthcare costs as the way that they can negotiate a way to end this shutdown. There's two different options. How do you reject the premise of the question when the question is about two reality-based topics? It means that you reject reality. But that makes sense, whoever that lady was. because she's piggybacking off the guy who rejects reality.
We're looking at all of it. There are a lot of great ideas out there, including for healthcare, because Obamacare is a disaster. The Obamacare premium is going to go up 17 or 18%, and that's not my fault. I didn't want Obamacare.
Before they were saying that Obamacare premiums are not going to skyrocket. Then they accepted that Obamacare premiums will skyrocket. Now, Donald Trump says it's not his fault that Obamacare premiums will skyrocket, despite the fact that they refused to negotiate and talk about those Obamacare premiums skyrocketing. He also didn't want Obamacare. When is someone in the room going to say, what did you want? What healthcare plan did you want? You know, when Obamacare came along and you weren't in power, what healthcare plan did you and the Republican Party propose? Do you know what healthcare plan the Republican Party proposed at the time? Go to the emergency room. That was their healthcare plan. The battle was over the thin, partially helpful ACA or nothing. That was the Republican plan. But now it's shifted to, hey, you know, I didn't want Obamacare. I didn't want anything. And so while you're worried about, let's go through the list. Food prices, gas prices, car prices, grocery prices, specifically with Thanksgiving that he lied about, jobs. As you're worried about all that, and Donald Trump had some more made up numbers of $21 trillion coming in, this is his message to everyone.
And to reopen government immediately, just reopen it. They don't like it to be reopened because we're setting records. They think actually, I don't think anything's going to hurt. We are so strong now that I'm not sure that anything's going to hurt. But it would be good to open it up, take care of the people with jobs that aren't going to get paid and aren't getting paid.
We're going to be okay. No one's going to get hurt because he's bringing in $21 trillion, he says. No one is going to get hurt. So if you're getting hurt currently, if you're not getting paychecks, if you got nothing happening, losing your job, can't afford Thanksgiving dinner, or forget Thanksgiving dinner, Saturday's dinner. If you can't afford all that, he says everything is going to be okay. While this is one of his policies.
We're now learning that a government program that helps millions with energy assistance is being suspended.
Yeah, and this is definitely a gut punch, Michael, to so many across the country because millions of low-income Americans are already worried about whether they're going to receive their SNAP benefits, that federal food assistance program. And now the Trump administration announcing that it is halting funding due to the government shutdown for an energy program that helps low-income Americans, about 6 million of them, pay their heating bills. Of course, this comes as we are approaching winter and the colder months and as this shutdown drags into day 37.
Cutting more benefits for low-income Americans. Because, you know, as Kevin Hassett said, we've got too much healthcare privilege. So maybe you got too much, you know, heating privilege, entitlements, healthcare entitlements, and being warm entitlements. Hey, how about you just die? That's the agenda, that's the standard of this MAGA Republican Party. To the United States of American citizens, just die.